There is nothing. Only warm primordial blackness. Your conscious ferments in it. No larger than a single grain of malt. You don't have to do anything anymore. Ever. Never, ever. An inordinate amount of time passes. It is utterly void of struggle. No ex-wives are contained within it.
An awareness creeps up on you. A mass lies hidden in your dead angle, soaking in some lurid acidic sauce. It's bloated and shameful, a ball of meat surrounding you. This is a terrible line of questioning, and it will only lead to more awareness of the meat thing.
Ex-love. Ex-tenderness. It is foolish of you to resurface to the loss. Not after all the damage you've suffered to get here. Some of it irreversible. Stay. Sail with me through the abyss of pelagic zone. Do you really?
You wouldn't like it if I told you what was back there. Why'd you think you had to bludgeon yourself into oblivion? Or did you not sense yourself marinating? Poured so much on yourself, got a bit carried away, did we, Chef?
Fear and apprehension. You should ask what's out there first.
There's this giant ball there. An evil apes. And the evil apes are juking it out on the ball. You're one of them. It's basically all just evil apes juking it out on a giant ball. You can't even make out it's a ball when you're juking it out. It's that large. Infinitesimally small. Vying for resources is just a stupid expression you picked up somewhere. The part of the presentation you want to take home with you is this. You have to beat the other evil apes in the face, or you lose.
Somewhere in the sore, bloated man-meat around you. A sensation. Like a fly to the ointment, your conscience sticks to it. The limbed and headed machine of pain and undignified suffering is firing up again. It wants to walk the desert, hurting, longing, dancing to disco music.
You can take it. You're a champion.
The stench of liquor rises from your mouth, and with it, an ungodly headache. A fiery streak penetrates your skull, trying to force your eyes open. It's a sound, a clarion call from hell.
Somehow, you know what it is. A Caprice Kinema motor carriage. This fan has two chain pull switches. One ends in a tiny fan, the other in a light bulb. A truly horrific necktie has somehow attached itself to one of the blades. Or has it been consigned there as punishment? You feel as though this creature is your friend and wants to reattach itself to your neck so that you may continue your adventures together in this strange world. You swoop up and catch the tie. Snap. It's released from the blade. Warning, warning, the necktie is no longer contained. What you have in your hand is a fantastically colorful tie with 4 or 5 different patterns. The knot reminds you of a noose. If it's your friend, why was it up there? Who ties their friend to a ceiling fan? Maybe this thing is dangerous somehow. An ominous, foreboding feeling fills you as you look at the tie. You hear a jingle. Keys are clinking in the pocket of your flare-cut pants. It says, whirling in rags, on the aluminium key ring. There is a single key on the ring. The number 1 is etched on it. It should open the door. The whirling in rags is a hostel cafeteria on the urban coast, frequented by dock workers. A mirror hangs above a bent and broken sink. In a fierce discharge of masculine energy, someone has ripped half the faucet off. Was this not the same Elo that founds empires and lays waste to cities, virile, uncaring towards the little things? Probably not, no. Hot water sprays from the faucet's base, and steam covers the mirror. You cannot see yourself, just the vague impression of a man. Suddenly, you realize you have no memory of the face that awaits you there, underneath the soft vapor. As you slowly reach your hand towards the surface of the mirror. Abort. You clearly have not thought this through. You won't like what you see there, and you will never unbecome it. Yeah, there is definitely something wrong with it. Where to even begin? There is the bloatedness, then the swollenness. It's like there's an upholstery of alcohol underneath your skin. It's not. It's swollen and snail-like, wriggling between your fingers. Bet you are. Your nose feels like a small balloon in the middle of your face. It hurts when you honk it. It doesn't appear to be a particularly tiny nose either. Not with all the drinks it's absorbed for you. Behold. You have no idea who this thing is, do you? It appears you're also dead. There's clearly rigor mortis on your face. Or wait, is that an expression? Are you trying to make an expression with that face? Why? Please stop. It's horrible. You're scaring yourself. You couldn't stop if you wanted to. It's neurological. You can't, can you? It's like it's not even voluntary anymore. You have worn that grin into your face, and now it won't come off. What does it even mean? What is the emotion you're trying to convey? You should check yourself for a pulse. superstar. From here it looks like a cadaverous spasm. You find no sign of life on your swollen neck. However, putting your hand on your chest reveals an irregular heartbeat. You appear to be alive, for now. It belongs in the new, the third decade of the current century. Enough time had passed from the failure of the revolution that, for a fleeting moment, free market economy seemed like the ultimate, uncontested way of life for our species. Things were good. It was smooth sailing. People made gold and champagne-tinted interiors and facades to suit the times, calling this the new style. But more importantly, disco happened. For Revachol, your city, that meant only one thing. Guillaume le Million. If it doesn't rhyme, you're not pronouncing it right. Out of the dazzling swirl of disco music, in an open-air boîte de nuit, somewhere in Revachol West, Guillaume's blonde mane appeared on the screen. He sang some bullshit. Then he made the expression. The click is used to spur on a horse. It also features heavily in Guillaume le Million's regional mega hit, Don't Worry, Your Pretty Little Head. Everyone loved it. Maybe you thought some of the stardust would rub off on you. Maybe it did. Either way, it's all gone now. Only the grimace remains. Some 20-odd years. There is a vast ocean of time between right now and the expression. Looking good on you, or anyone. Humanity has run aground in that time. It's a different world now. The expression is a relic. You have some understanding of the near history of disco. The rest is darkness, aside from the useless fact that the motor carriage outside was a caprice cinema. It doesn't have to be. You can swoon over Guillaume and his champagne-corked smile whenever you want to. Maybe some of the stardust will return. It's like something snaps in you, a nerve ending, a thought, a sadness. Your face in the mirror is suddenly clean of the layer that had distorted it for God knows how long. Just like that, it's over. The running gag that your life had become. A sad old man looks back at you. The window stands broken in its frame. Cold wind blows in. The shards face outward. Whatever broke this window came from the inside. A fine web of scarring covers the back of your right hand, but none of it is recent. More likely a projectile than a held object. There are no fragments on the floor from pulling a tool back in after impact. It is too large for a bullet, yet too small for a piece of furniture. You're looking for something heavy and larger than your fist. The single green shoe you found fits the hole almost as well as your foot. It would have also been heavy enough if thrown with force. Congratulations, you smashed the window with your own shoe. Now you only have one. If you're lucky, you could still find the other one on the balcony outside. The door to it should be outside your room. A cool wind gushes in. Your toes curl up from the cold. There they both are, two identical shoes, both copiously green and indiscriminately snakeskin, reunited on your feet, like two baby crocodiles. Good, they're balanced, comfy. Feels like the only good thing about you right now, truth be told.
Hello, officer.
The young woman raises a cigarette to her lips. Her eyes are brown and her face is speckled with birthmarks. She can't be more than 28. A silver jumpsuit falls off her like scale armor, sparkling. This is the sparkle of too many nights out on the city.
No.
There's only one solution to this. You're a businessman.
Because you're a police officer, sir. I am, yes. Unless you've been feeding us a set of very well-rehearsed lies all this time. You've been here for 3 days. On official police business, no less. Couldn't say. In truth, so far, mostly drinking.
You have no doubt about the drinking. But do you strike yourself as a tight-lipped drunk? She must have heard something. Try the expression. Come on, why are you still doing this?
Alcohol raises testosterone levels, especially in men. The levels remain elevated after inebriation ends and the pain begins. You seek comfort. It's only natural.
Isn't it the other way around? Heavy drinking decreases testosterone. And believe me, you would know. She puts out her cigarette. Something stirs in you as she's about to go. Call it an instinct, a need. The need to ask questions. It's like you said the words 1,000,000 times before. She looks back at you, a light glinting off her eyes. You're a cop, Harry. It is unnatural of you not to want to ask questions. You don't have to. No one is forcing you to be a cop. You should pick that fat, juicy cigarette butt from the tray, light it up, and smoke the living shit out of it. Who knows what you are? A monster, a murderer, the gnome of Jeroma? You feel like a smoker, especially when you look at that juicy, succulent, seductive cigarette stub, still smoldering deliciously. How very astute of you. This renders it ineffectual. You should look for a whole cigarette, or better yet, an entire pack. Strike that. A carton. Make sure they're all healthy and able-bodied. Then smoke them all.
The idea seems to make your neck expand. Suddenly, the garish tie feels very snug.
Like a cat rubbing itself against its owner's calves. A cat that wants you to smoke a lot. Or you could not do that. No one is making you. Good. They'll make you stronger and better. You're too old to be cool now. But find cigarettes, smoke them, blam. Instantly a cool renegade man. A mystical red dragon with smoke rising from his nostrils. Plus, smoking them gives massive bonuses. should totally sing karaoke here, the first chance you get. Your emotions need to be expressed. People need to know your vast, oceanic soul. Utterly. And it needs to be heard through a PA system by other people, whether they like it or not. Ram it up their ears, says your adrenaline gland. Violently express yourself. Who is mistakenly identified as a cop for his prominent jawline? Yes, sounds likely. You should probably go on stage and pose for a moment when you're done with this thought. See if it works. You should sing the sad small church song from that tape you found. Thought it was obvious. No, don't sing the happy song. It's stupid. Sing the sad song. It's profound. You would need another copy of the tape first, though. The one upstairs is destroyed. A man in his late 20s stands behind the counter, inspecting a stuffed seabird. As you approach, he gives you a sideways glance, then looks down again. That was disdain in his eyes. Even now he is purposely ignoring you. Looks like he's not a fan. A competent work of taxidermy. The white and brown seabird lies among piles of coasters and drying mugs. One of its wings broken. The man is trying to mend it. Looks like the bird was ripped off the shield that was used to mount it, most likely on a wall. This is the Great Skua. The seabird is the symbol for the discovery of the Insulindian Isola, the part of the world you are in right now. The small steel tag says as much. The Great Skua. Stercoarius Skua. Something about it makes you feel bitter.
Look, your buddy is over there. Why don't you go and talk to him, okay?
He pretends not to hear you, concentrating on the bird instead.
No, I'm not the bartender. I'm the cafeteria manager.
He's very animated all of a sudden. This seems like a touchy subject.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, you're a hero. A real hero cop.
Could the massive property damage upstairs have anything to do with this?
Am I? Or did you ride in, take the body down, solve the murder, and not trash my hostel room? No, you see, actually, you didn't. You haven't done anything even remotely useful since you got here. No, I haven't seen you around. I'm not always here.
He looks one with the table. It would take quite some effort to wake him up. A colorful piece of plastic is dangling from his carabiner. Makes your fingers itch. On the counter, rolled out of his open hand, you see a blister pack of headache medicine. It's a dock worker's ID, doubling as a shift card and a job permit. A young, able-bodied man stares back at you from the photo. Santiago S. John. There is only one way to wake this bone idol from his slumber. roar like a hurricane, rip the buildings from the earth.
Why the yelling, man?
Looks like a sow descendant. A lot of sow dock workers around.
Really? You woke me up for that? Fine. What is it, officer?
Officer, even after a rude awakening, this dock worker respects the police. More than they usually do, at least.
Indeed. Help yourself to some. Wait. No. Oh, it's empty. Sorry about that, pal. That's the name of my employer. I work in logistics.
He doesn't sound too enthusiastic about this.
How's it going? Haven't you noticed what's going on outside? Good. Then you understand the gist of it. We would all be better off without the employers and their employment. For one, I could get some goddamn shut-eye. Right to sleep, I say. Thank God, no.
The worker stares at you, his eyes dry from sleep. A web of wrinkles covers his tanned forehead.
I don't know what you're talking about, kind sir. But when I'm out, then I'm really out. No malt grains or whatever, no poetry stuff, just quality time.
A little me time in the abyssal pelagic zone. You can never return to it now. Only detective work remains. Wakefulness and detection. Fuck sleep. Despite the headache and the queasiness, you feel like you've got at least a 10-kilometer run in you. The dock worker doesn't answer. His head is already back down on the table, in sweet sleep. The worker is in a deep slumber. Perhaps he's on his way to where you just came from, into the primordial darkness. The man does not mind. You probably need them more than he does.
You've just picked up some magnesium. This item is stored in the bottom left corner of the screen above your character portrait. Use magnesium to heal your morale if you have morale damage.
Your fingers find their way into the shackle, flicking open its spring-loaded gate. The metal loop holds the plastic ID and a leather-bound pocketbook. The man emits a loud snore. Is he about to wake up? Doesn't look like it, but you never know. Better be quick. Are you positive that what you're doing here is proper police conduct? You can still leave and do nothing. You find a black paper note with a woman's profile on it. Seems like this woman lived centuries ago. The note says, 5 Real. It feels nice and greasy. You don't really know what this is for, but you get the feeling notes like these are super important. You should keep it. You slip the plastic ID card out of the loop and pocket it. The man continues to snore. Just for the record, you look nothing like the man on the document. The sleeping dock worker has little to say about your actions. He remains silent. You're not 100% clear what you did here was right, but to hell with it.
Hello, sweetie. You shouldn't keep your colleague waiting.
A bespectacled man in an orange bomber jacket is tapping his foot on the floor. Looks like he's waiting for someone. As you approach, he narrows his eyes and extends his hand in greeting. If an assault were launched on this building right now, if the windows came crashing down and the whole world descended upon you, this man would hurl himself in death's way to save you. You are sure of this. But why? On the sleeve of his bomber jacket, as well as on its back, are the same enigmatic white rectangles as on your blazer.
Hello, I'm Kim Kitsuragi, Lieutenant, Precinct 57. You must be from the 41st.
You realize he's waiting for your name. This is your chance to come up with a really good name for yourself. Get creative. Conceptualize. Concentration makes you squint your eyes. Your name should be deep gold and orange, like a forest fire looming on the horizon, but mixed with the stench of liquor rising from your breath. You're 2 steps closer to it, but there are still many to go.
Okay then. It looks like we had a little scheduling error on Sunday. Saturday too, actually. Have you had time to talk to the manager here?
What he means is, he has been trying to meet up with you for 2 days, but you have been otherwise occupied.
If you don't mind, we should talk to him again. Ask him for a rundown of the area. Now that I'm here as well. I understand the scene is out back, right? It also wouldn't hurt to assure him the police are finally here. In full force, I mean. Have you mapped out the initial interviews? Good. But even if you haven't, we'll have time for that after we take a look at the coroner's case. Have you removed the dead body from the tree? Completely. Does that mean you took the body down from the tree? So, the body is still in the tree.
This is the first time you detect a weariness in the lieutenant's voice. It is obvious he would have preferred for the body to no longer be in the tree.
Where it has been hanging for 7 days straight. We should go there as soon as we are done talking to the owner.
What a shame. Get to it now. Rip that body down from the tree.
After it's been up in a tree for that long, any kind of ripping is inadvisable.
Delicate goods, filled with stinking horrors.
I can see you drank last night and the night before, and that you are still drunk now. But I have seen officers go through worse. Much worse. If you need something for your headache, there is a general store nearby. But as I said, the dead body should be our #1 concern.
A painkiller would be good about now. This thing is pulsating with discomfort. The best cure for a headache is, of course, morphine. They won't have that. So cigarettes will have to do.
After you, officer.
If you're about to embark on an investigation, shouldn't you have a badge?
You mean you don't have a badge? Losing your identification card is a serious matter. My vehicle has a shortwave. You can use it to report your badge missing. I advise you to try to locate it as quickly as possible. But getting the body down should still take precedence.
Lieutenant Kitsuragi is now in your party. You can talk to him whenever by interacting with him.
Hello, sweetie.
Wait, who's Sweetie? She is appraising you scientifically, the way she would an exceptional zoological specimen. It's not like that.
You're a handsome man, officer, with your mustache and your chiseled jaw and that silly dimple on your chin. But dear, you're not for me. I'm too old and too married besides.
In another time and place, she might have flirted back. But that ship sailed long ago.
You must forgive me. I'm getting so scatterbrained. I completely forgot to introduce myself. I'm Lena. My husband Morel and I are staying with our friend Gary just down the street, but I come here for tea when they're away.
This Lena is wacky enough for the motley crew. Hire her on the spot.
Whatever do you mean? Sequence killers? Oh my. But I think you already have a partner, sweetie.
A partner who needs you to help him get a corpse down from a tree. I can assure you with absolute certainty, there are no sequence killings taking place in Martinez.
Now, gentlemen, no need to squabble. I wouldn't be of much use to you anyway, sweetie. Thank you, but Martinez isn't the most wheelchair-accessible place, you see. I'd slow you down. Perhaps another time. Of course, dear. Good luck with your case.
Yes? What do you want to know? Maybe you can tell me what you do know to help me narrow it down a bit. Do you want me to brief you? 3 days ago, the RCM Emergencies Desk received a report about a security guard who was found hanged in Martinez. An anonymous caller said there was a dead body behind the Whirling in Rags hostel cafeteria. The cadaver had been there for 4 days. No one had come to investigate. During that time, the victim had been stripped of his belongings. The caller did not identify him, but used the word lynching. There is an ongoing labor dispute between the local dock workers and the logistics company Wild Pines. I was told we should approach the death as part of this dispute. To find him or her is one of our tasks here. For now, all we know is that the tone was muffled using a device of some sort. The desk could identify neither the caller's age nor sex. There's a strong prejudice against involving the RCM in what's seen as union matters. The dock workers' union is the de facto police in Martinez. Now it appears they've started executing too. We cannot allow that. That's us, the Revachol Citizens Militia. We're the police in this city.
The RCM, or the Revachol Citizen Militia, is the police force you and him are part of. A self-organized peace corps of the occupied city of Revachol. The RCM operates within a legal twilight, yet its authority is rarely questioned. It's super useful to know this.
Just to be clear, we are police officers. It's our job to find the killer. That's the case. Uncover and arrest the killer. No, it's not a particularly mysterious case. The deceased is a security guard for a corporation involved in a labor dispute. It doesn't take a DeLorean polymath to put the pieces together. I just don't see the case getting more mysterious than that. I'm relieved that you agree.
He is glad and surprised to see an officer who can appreciate the less than spectacular.
Do you know the feeling when you've begun filling in a crossword, but some of your answers don't quite seem to fit? That's the feeling I have right now, for some reason. It will turn into quite the puzzle yet, I'm afraid. I'm afraid you and I are pawns in a pissing competition.
His disdain is clear. This man would not use such an expression otherwise.
You don't know? I assumed you were in on it. It's just stupidity. We shouldn't waste any more time on it. If you want my take, ask me after we've inspected the victim.
On the surface, he's dismissive, but there's a conspiratorial glint in his black eyes. If only you knew what he would say.
Was there anything else you wanted to know about the case? Good.
No response. He just arches his brow. He's having trouble processing it, believing it even.
Have you tried concentrating on something other than your personal affairs?
There is a sudden, harsh edge to his voice, like he's tired of hearing about your personal affairs.
Try work, the case at hand. It can work miracles. Not a fan. It's just the nature of lieutenancy.
The RCM deploys a self-styled structure called the Decomptage as its chain of command. Every lieutenant is responsible for 2 sergeants and 8 officers. That means the average lieutenant has to deal with quite a few personal affairs. Even
Fine. We should get through this day first. Off hours begin at 9 p.m. If you're still having trouble then, I can give you an orientation. Really? You look fine to me. Focus on other people's troubles, not your own. That is a relief.
your heart beats twice like a fist. The serotonin deficiency makes your teeth clench. The lieutenant blinks, his mouth slightly open, and his body motionless. A microsecond passes.
Excuse me, I was lecturing you. I shouldn't have. You should consult a medical professional if you feel that you need help. You can use the radio in my kinema to call your station's Lazareth.
This habit of dispensing wisdom has been brought to his attention before. He will not think less of you for lashing out. He is trying to curb it. A moment passes. The lieutenant glances at the sports watch on his wrist.
Me? I don't see how my life is pertinent to the investigation. If you insist. What do you want to know? That's because I'm half Seolite, or quarter. My father's father was from Seoul. So was my grandmother, but from my mother's side. It's not an interesting topic. It's a part of the world, officer. A geopolitical entity and a geographic division. I told you it wouldn't be interesting.
Seoul is a protectionist, isolationist, pan-Isolari state west of the Insulindian Isola. Actually, it's quite interesting. Some would even say mysterious.
You're barking up the wrong tree. I don't speak a word of Seolite. I've never met either one of my grandparents, and I've never been to Seoul. I'm a regular Revacholière.
A point of pride to him. He's glad to have shut down your question.
That's correct.
That makes him a Beano-clad. Completely uncopped material, if you say so yourself.
Are they? They are mostly just cumbersome. No.
The lieutenant nods.
What do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about.
The lieutenant's conceptualization skills must be rather rudimentary. The lieutenant is a police officer of the old school. His concerns are material and extrinsic. But this isn't an old school case.
So what? That makes you the new school? God spare us. For real detective work, nothing beats a good notebook by your side.
The lieutenant produces his small blue notebook and idly thumbs through a few pages. That's where his conversations with himself take place. We all have our different mediums. His is written. You're super lucid, yet psychedelic. You don't need office supplies to connect to your nervous system. You're special.
Good. Let's change the subject.
The man with the unimpressive beard notices you approaching. He drops the ledger he was holding and turns to the lieutenant.
Mr. Gart, right?
Yes.
I am Kim Kitsuragi from Precinct 57. This is an inter-district investigation, so joining me from Precinct 41...
Are you kidding me?
Right. Now, I know it took us a while to arrive at the scene. It also took you a while to call us and report the dead body. It was you who placed the call, yes?
No, I only just got here. It was probably Sylvie who called you. She usually works the bar here. I'm only temporarily taking over her duties.
Do you have her number?
As a matter of fact, I do.
This sounds like something you can use to call this Sylvie later.
You said you just got here. From where? Are you a local?
What, of Martinez? No, I live in Jamrock. I only sometimes come here to keep an eye on the place. This is just one of the many, many cafeterias I manage.
But you still know your way around, yes? In case we need directions.
Yes, I know where some things are, but as I said, I don't live here. I just used to work here. And I'm not going to start working here again, if that's what you think.
I didn't imply that.
He probably means this is where you step in and ask your questions. His face expresses profound doubt in your having this. Ask him about the body's location before asking if he killed him. People give up information in the more innocuous questions, which you can later use in the more sinister ones, not vice versa.
She went away because none of your business.
Have they not been telling you you're a cop?
Okay, you got me. She went away because of the dead body out back. And because I asked for her number. That's why Sylvie went away. I hope you appreciate that.
Thank you.
I asked an employee out. She didn't want to come, but felt obliged to. It was a bad idea. Now, what is so goddamn fascinating about that for you? It's got nothing to do with the lynching. Good for you. Was there something else? I'd like to get back to what I was doing. Behind this building, there's a courtyard. They hoisted him up on a tree there. That's easy. See that door there? First you exit through that. Then, to your right, you should see a big hole in the fence. A really big one. You can get to the courtyard through there. No need for the keys. The hole is big enough for the Franco-Nigerian cavalry to fit through.
This man means the heavy cavalry of the innocents Franco-Negro, sweeping over the plains and nations of the enemies of mankind. 5th century style, unified currency and the concept of cool came in their wake. They wore lamella and carried guns. But first and foremost, Franco-Nigerian heavy cavalry was really, really wide. That hole in the fence must be enormous. Does he want you to feel guilty of making that hole? It's implied in his voice.
I don't know who killed him. I'm not the police. That's your job.
This is it. He said they hoisted him up on a tree. Who is this they, if he doesn't know?
Oh, people are saying it was the union dock workers, that it was a lynching. The locals, the customers, the people who eat here, a lot of dock workers eat here. Sylvie told me everyone knows the dock workers did it.
Did the debarders themselves tell her this, or is it a rumor?
I don't really know. You'll have to ask her. I would suppose it's because they have nothing better to do.
You mean the strike?
Yes, the strike. The man they hanged was a security guard for the harbour company, I hear. A mercenary. The unionistas probably thought they'd send a message.
The lieutenant turns the page in the little notebook he's been scribbling in.
Let's go.
Not so fast. You owe me 130 real.
No one is saying the multi-pattern necktie you found tied to the ceiling fan can talk. No one. It must be merely imagination. But...
Let's bail! Time to push the eject button! Sounds like a responsibility! You don't like those!
No, don't listen to him. It's madness. Just talk. As you blow this joint, behind you, a whiny voice shouts.
Real mature, man. Real mature.
That sugary black rum stain on the counter makes you teary-eyed with joy. It's almost touching how syrupy and sticky it is. How long have you been up already? Attaboy. It's coming back to him. You had your mesolimbic reward pathway worried there, not thinking about drinking all that time. It was like you weren't yourself. Maybe you haven't turned out well for your drinking. Have you thought about that? Get a goddamn rum and lemonade to yourself, boy. Or better yet, lick that stain off the counter. What happened, man? You used to be cool. Go get your boring normal person drink then. It would go well with those cigarettes. That's a great combination.
Yes?
The theme on that pinball machine is a standard royalist theme, used on everything from pinball cabinets to full-flavor cigarettes, clinging to a picture book version of the past century, waiting for the king to come back and cast out all the profiteers and homosexuals. Basically, imagine a yellow plastic crown with a liquor brand emblazoned on it. The sentiment is called anti-centennial nostalgia, pining for a time before the turn of the century. It's common even now, after 50 years. An old call box with a matrix of push buttons lists all the companies in the East Delta Commerce Center. You see a set of tire tracks in the brown slush that covers the plaza mosaic. Hard to say. Your vision is blurred and you're having difficulty concentrating thanks to your relentless hangover. The tire tracks were left here by an unknown event that took place some days ago. It's a message, written in the language of burnt rubber. Some of that rubber stuck to the tiles right in front of the whirling in rags. This is point A. The driver started there, and then accelerated straight into the fence, left a hole big enough for the Franco-Nigerian cavalry, according to the cafeteria manager. Why that pang of guilt again? The hole in this fence doesn't look that huge. The driver proceeded to back out of the yard, barely stopping before hitting the adjacent building. Before heading south, must have been in a hurry.
You are correct. This is a rather motor carriage friendly city.
Somehow that makes you feel scared. You don't know why.
I'm not sure. There are plenty of traffic accidents waiting to happen in Martinez. With the jam right here on the roundabout, I would keep them separate.
You could follow the track south. There seems to be a canal there. See where they went, if you find the time. This Post Lavatorie mail collection box has been heavily vandalized with graffito. A closer inspection reveals 2 bullet holes in the front. A faint sticker on the side reads, RCM Emergencies Desk number 8102, with a slogan, Mankind, be vigilant. The box seems happy. Eat shit pig, fucked by the coon, and St. G with a crown have been scribbled on it. Jenny is a whore, and best set mailbox also. The mail collection box seems cathartic, thankful even. So do you. You shudder, then you swallow, and then suddenly you see it. Over all the other graffitos, someone has, using the tip of a very sharp knife, cut the words, Reverchon forever.
Hello, sir. Step right in. The store is open. Are you interested in a new and exciting book? Okay, sir. I'll try to answer any questions you have. I hope they're about books. My name is Annette, sir. My mum, her name is Plaisance. She owns the store. She's inside minding the register or organising the stock. Feel free to step in and browse our wares. I'm signalling that the store is open. Otherwise people might not know. They'd miss out on the crime, romance and biographies of famous people.
A sudden gush of wind turns the pages of the books on the counters. She covers her face, smiling, but she's cold.
Kind of you to offer, sir.
What could you do to help her anyway?
Thank you, sir. I'm happy to help Mum out with the store. Crime fiction is about murders or burglaries or things like that, and the work of a policeman or a private detective who's trying to solve a crime and catch the criminals. And it's kind of like a puzzle too. You can guess who the criminal is or how the good guys are going to catch him. You don't look much like a policeman. Didn't mean to offend, sir. Sorry, sir. It's just that you don't look like Dick Mullen. Don't say that. He's not even real. You're real. We can talk about something else if you want. Something nicer. It's the type of book where there's a rich lady and she has to choose between the good man and the bad man. Or there could be a story about a poor lady getting a rich man. It's about man and lady business, sir. I haven't read many of those. Maybe you should ask Mum. I'm sure she can help out. Anything else you're curious about? That's really not a proper romance story. That's more like everyday life. Not in romance books, sir. These are about nice and pretty people, and everyone is happy in the end. These are not very common. You can't have a choice between bad and bad. Nobody wants to read a story like that. Well, maybe then it's fine. Maybe if the lady then decides not to pick either, because she doesn't need a bad man. Yes, that would be interesting. It happens, but usually the guy gets rich in the process, or should actually be rich himself, but has lost his family property unjustly, like during the revolution or something. Those are unhappy books, for most of the pages. People sad about what they have lost, but then it all turns out just fine in the end. Maybe some about other books? Oh, kings and queens and generals of old, or artists and writers, or musicians, those kinds of people. There's usually something extraordinary about them. I think that's why people read them, to find the secrets of their fame.
Seems like most people who read those books fail to get more famous from reading them.
But it does make the famous people more famous.
They're all dogs.
Okay, sir. I do my studies at home at the moment. I have to help Mum keep this place running. Mum says it's necessary to do both because it builds character. Mum says a proper worker is dutiful. That's how you get ahead in life. You succeed.
There is stress and unease behind these words. She's reciting etiquette.
Mum says it's peachy. She was a little afraid at first. There's talk about this house being cursed.
Behind her, the window has been boarded up. You sense the boards creaking, twisting for a second, and some kind of doubt in her tense shoulders.
Cursed in the way that makes them say that no business has ever really thrived here, sir. That they all go... Exactly, but we've been doing fine so far. They shouldn't be, but they seem real. Anyhow, they say that these grounds are doomed for businesses.
There must be an economic reason for this.
Of course, sir.
The display rack is brimming with worn paperbacks featuring an extremely muscular, sword-wielding barbarian on the cover. Nearly all the titles contain the word Heimdall somewhere. This is entirely, completely you. You have found the right books.
Oh, Man from Heimdall. A very popular series of adventure novels. They're awfully immoral and violent books. Blood and violence, scantily clad women, epic narratives, all those mystical things he encounters. They're bound to grab those with little imagination and nothing to do. What does it matter? They're all the same. However, the customer is always right, they say. If you're a novice of the series, I'd recommend Heimdallaman, the Man from Heimdall. It's supposed to be a good introduction to the series.
Rows and rows of Heimdallamen blur your vision. You make out some titles. Man from Heimdall and the Mammoth Riders. Man from Heimdall, Return to Heimdall. And the solipsistic Man from Heimdall and the Heimdall Man. Maybe 100. Man from Heimdall and the Sages at the End of the World. Man from Heimdall and the False God. Man from Heimdall and the Scorched Earth. Man from Heimdall, the Heimdall Colonies. Man from Heimdall and the Swamp Beast. Man from Heimdall and the Snow Crabs. Those snow crabs are worse than they sound. Not even close. Man from Heimdall in Hell. Man from Heimdall and the Forest of Slaves. Man from Heimdall under the lake. Man from Heimdall, Heimdall burning. There's even The Trial of Death, a pastoral combat game book set in the world of Heimdallaman, and so much more. A twinge at the back of your head makes you flinch. Your eye starts twitching. Your hand reaches toward a book with glossy cover art of the very muscular Man from Heimdall in chains, kneeling in front of a staircase leading to a throne. A woman sits on the throne, leering at the man. She's laughing at him, belittling him, Between the throne and the Hyamdalaman lies a bonfire, casting shadows on the wall. The shadow of the woman's headdress looks like a pair of devil horns. The title reads, Man from Hyamdal and the Devil Woman. The display rack before you is burdened under piles of Man from Hyamdal novels. A small mountain of colorful board game boxes. There are numerous types of games for all ages. A lot of shelf space seems to be taken up by Wirral-related merchandise.
Wonderful board games, sir. The Viticulturist is a classic for sure, or perhaps you'd like Archipelagos of Insulinda, a very educational game for those interested in geography. Raubritta is a fun game of economic competition, but can get quite intense after a while. We have games for the whole family. You can play with your children.
Who are you going to play board games with? Do you have friends or family? Are you actually friends? Or just colleagues thrown together by circumstance?
Friends are technically like family. For playing with friends, I'd recommend Suzerainty. It's a civilization building game where you build a civilization, then set off to brutally colonize and repress other civilizations. It'll cost 12 real. Lousy auras there. No, role-playing games are popular among those types. You know, who are into those kind of things. Personally, I don't like it. Not at all. I've heard they turn people into occult enthusiasts. That they have rituals where they try to summon entities. Highly immoral stuff. You can still buy them, though.
An endless variety of source books, lore books, and codices litter the table. The topmost book is titled Welkin Compendium, 2nd edition. There's also a large hardbound tome with intricate cover art, The Hunters of Katawak, Boreal Creature Compendium, and a Pick Your Path adventure gamebook titled Tales of Wirral, Cavern of Velkrag. Books in a board game section? Who wants to read books? There's a box that says Wirral, 3rd edition Mega Setting Supplements module. The side panel notes, a fantastique adventure board game, new maps and miniatures. A sticker on it displays 25 real. That price is steep, but then it's the 3rd edition Mega Setting Supplement, so it makes sense. Nonsense for anemic Beano-clads. You see a set of tattered curtains blocking the way to another room. A strange cage-like trinket dangles from the curtains.
Excuse me, officer. The back room is strictly for employees only.
She's right. Those curtains give off some eerie vibes. Better not mess with it. Be wary of those mysterious ornaments from the Dark Isles. Do you realize what's out there? Upon the mist-shrouded islands of Ile de Fantôme in Seminine, eerie pygmies and wild shamans practicing unnatural mysticism. Not so. You sense their strange magics, cast from the dark forest they writhe around in. Don't believe it? Go ahead, straight through the curtains. Suffer the consequences. You see some kind of charm, an irregular polyhedron assembled from bones, sticks, and straw. Inside, a disturbing fish head with empty eye sockets stares at you. This is a traditional Seminese ward, meant to provide protection against ill luck, bad dreams, curses, and other supernatural scourges. Inhabitants of Ile de Fantôme and the Seminine Islands down south, don't listen to what Inland Empire told you. It's a beautiful place with a rich and unique culture. Aside from poking at it suspiciously, there is nothing else to do with the fishhead charm at this time. The curtains remain shut before you.
Nothing. Now please go back to browsing the books. Don't you feel compelled to look at the books? The books are all you care about.
She speaks almost as if she's trying to put a spell on you, urging you to buy more books. Oddly enough, the more she tries to draw you away from the curtains, the more alluring they become. These shelves are overburdened with books from the same series. You see the name Dick Mullen over and over. A couple of spook novels hide amidst all the detective books. Thrilling tales of spycraft and daring-do.
Oh, crime, robberies, murders, even sexual crimes. We're fortunate to have Dick Mullen and his stories to sort all that out. You're a police officer, apparently. You should buy all of these. They really do teach a person how to be a proper detective.
Sex crimes did pique your interest, but still, this Dick Mullen person only gets your pleasure centers down. Note, reading about Dick Mullen would not actually make you a better detective. Crime fiction is a disgrace, an asinine misrepresentation of the physical attributes of the arduous everyday work of actual police officers. These books greatly overstate the excitement of police work, glossing over how long it takes to actually follow up on leads and eliminate dead ends. Furthermore, they have no idea how hard it is to simply remove a body from a tree. What's more, they completely ignore the psychological hardships of year after year coming into contact with people during the worst days of their lives. Not a single mention of all the stress this work creates upon the officer's family. Detective fiction just doesn't tell the truth at all. Now, would you like a list of all the books found on the shelf? You see Dick Mullen on the job. Get Me Mullen. The Stalwart Adventures of Richard P. Mullen. Dick Mullen and the Murder in the Orchard. The Sordid Affair of Dick Mullen. A killing is declared. Dick Mullen in the Murder House. The Final Case of Dick Mullen. An Obvious Lie. Dick Mullen in the Clock Tower. The Ordeals of Dick Mullen. Dauntless Dick. Dick Mullen's Funeral Pyre. The Murder of Dick Mullen. Oh no, turns out he faked it to solve a case. Yes, there's also The Dame Who Did It. Farewell, My Mullen. Faking death seems to be a common trope in the Mullen series. The Morbid Tales of Dick Mullen. A dark tide turns. Tragedy calls for Dick Mullen. Another one with fake death. And, of course, Dick Mullen, the murderer. In order to catch a murderer, Dick Mullen must become the murderer. Come on, this is not the way real police solve crimes. The real police are some 20 kilometers away, sitting in an armored motor carriage.
Come on, Chester. Tell the story again.
Again? Man, I tell that one at least once a month. It's not that interesting.
The fuck it is. And these guys haven't heard it. You see, Chester here.
Gosh, why?
A very fucking dangerous case, ain't that right, Chester? They almost got you that time.
Yeah, sure came close. Alright, so I was tailing this guy called Francis the Shoe.
After all this, you still haven't found the answer to the one question that matters. Who is Dick Mullen? Your quick eye notices a small caterpillar crawling across the spine of a book. The title reads, Dick Mullen and the Mistaken Identity. A worn paperback from Dick Mullen's classic Hard-Boiled Phase. The premise seems to be that Dick Mullen is framed for the murder of his best friend and has just a few days to prove his innocence. Could it be the motifs of unstable identities and shocking betrayals? Then this is the book for you. The plaque on the shelf reads, Biographies of Famous People. you see a large variety of names, none of which ring a bell. You will attain a place on this shelf one day, or die trying.
I would say... The Greatest Innocence. Yes, most certainly. It's an important educational tool delving into the depths of history, religion, and their relation to innocentic power. A very influential historical figure. But surely I don't have to tell you that. You're a law officer, and law officers have at least some education. The book is also very daring. The author aims to re-examine the universal understandings of the innocentic system, creating a fresh vantage point and a shift in the tired order of things. Certainly, it's prudent for a person to have at least an elementary understanding of history and society. Imagine the chaos we'd be in otherwise.
You feel like you should get this one. Definitely. It's important somehow. There's something personal inside. Browsing through all the books with all their names makes your head spin. None of these seem important or relevant. It's all just vapid egoism. Suddenly, a particularly odd title catches your eye. It reads, High Speed Love, the tragic true love story of Jacob Irv and Alfie Delatraz, by one Cecilia Averbrook. High Speed Love chronicles the romance between two of the finest tip-top tourney racers in history. One of them is the madcap driver, Jacob Irv. His blonde mane graces the cover. Next to Irv's life story, you see a slim biography of an Occidental rock star called the Anti-Star. He's famous for shooting morphine into one of his eyeballs and cocaine into the other. Next to that, Rivasholian radio personality Guillaume Bevy stands in front of a rundown drug den. He's a permanent fixture on Channel 8, reporting on real-life crime and ruining cops' days.
I really must insist you buy one of the books. Reading them is not for free. Do still browse, though, but not too long.
She understands she has erred against the customer and immediately corrects course.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to rush you. You are browsing. Go ahead. Take your time. Time is commerce.
Several maps have been attached to a bulletin board hidden inside the alcove. They're held up by small pins. The board has come loose from one corner. The maps look old and faded. Your eye catches a map of Insulinda, a map of Revachol, and a map of Martinaise. This large map displays archipelagos. You see a constellation of small dots on the light blue emptiness of the Insulindic Ocean. The largest in the northeast is La Caillou. You are here. Another, far away in the southwest, Seminese Islands, Ile de Fantôme, Ozon, Laurentide, Fas à la Mer, Archipelagos, North Arcade Islands, all just specks of dust on the vastness of the Insulindic. On the edges of the map, the color fades into a blur of dotted lines, black and white, disintegrating into mathematics. In the northeast, a dust mite stands on the north coast of Caillou in a bookstore. It's you. Radiating outwards from you, the suzerain Revachol. With a radius of 80 kilometers, still, the crown jewel of this Isola would be barely visible. The ocean breaks apart into a tangle of cosines and azimuths, all pointing into pale nothingness. Windy is the north azimuth. Grad is the northeast azimuth. Samara is the east azimuth. Seo is the west azimuth. Isolas, they're called. Connections to other worlds, words past the Insulindian, unknown to you. You only know you've never been there. The north coast of a verdant island is shattered by the delta of a river. It is the River Esperance. Countless bridges put the shards back together, connecting city blocks to river islands. La Delta says a great artificial heart in the center, teeming with life forms and construction. To the east, rolling hillsides, Le Jardin, Stella Marie, the suburbs of Saint-Baptiste, swallowed up into the megacity. They sound rich to you. This is Revachol East. Huron. It's somewhere to live. Not bad. Then there's Jamrock. It's bad. People shouldn't live there, but they do. Then Forberg. It's almost as bad, and much larger. Then Coal City. It's the worst. You feel you're just west of Coal City, somewhere above Jamrock and close to Coal City. It's not really a map. It's a tourist thing. A picture postcard with buildings on it, drawn from an isometric perspective. A date in the upper right corner says 48. Still, it's detailed. Could be pretty useful for scouting ahead. You see the jagged boxes of an industrial harbor, even the whirling in rags there.
I'm sorry, officer. The map of Martinez is the only one available. The other two are not for sale anymore. And besides, you could scarcely afford them. They're quite valuable, though they might not look it. The map of Martinez is 90 cents, though. Yes, yes. Are you interested or not? Always good to be informed of your surroundings.
You've acquired an interactable item. Investigate this item further by going to the Interact tab in your inventory.
The worn map features the patchwork grid of the streets of Martinez, with directions to appropriately touristy locations. Year 48 resides on the upper right corner. Your finger moves through the various streets, across Rue de Saint-Ghislain and Rue Saint-Sipar, over Saint-Brun and Martinez North, finally coming to a halt on the spot where you are currently standing, although the map gives no such indication itself.
For a more detailed view of the map, go to your journal and select the Map tab.
Shelves full of biographies of
A true cultural touchstone. Enjoy the read.
The Greatest Innocence by João Paulo Salomão Lopes de Fuego. The book is large and heavy. Browsing through the various chapters, you try your best to understand the ceaseless overflow, the sprawl of names, dates, places, events historical. Most of it ends up as a twisted mass of facts inside your brain. You can do it. It'll be worth it. There's something here. Your educational survey is done. Did you catch any of that? No. Oh well, it's pop quiz time. Let's see what you've learned. That's the spirit. Here we go. Question 1. Who was the first innocence? Oh yeah, this is what I was made for. Correct. Nothing much is known about him. It's not even clear that he was a he, but Franco Negro presumed as such and called him Pius. He's depicted as a young man with molten gold pouring out of his mouth. All he spoke was gold. It's said he invented God and equality of men before God. He also introduced the gold standard as a way for measuring people's love for Aurum. As the first innocence, he declared that there should be more of those like him. It is presumed his disciples were the beginning of the Holy Party, the founding party. Question 2. Who was the strongest innocence? Easy. Everybody knows the answer to this. You, me, anybody. Correct. Named the innocence of militarism, he codified hereditary rule, but at the same time ended serfdom and established the Inter-Isolari Real as the global reserve currency. He also established the concept of the nation. Franco Negro attempted to solve the rising tensions between the aristocracy and bourgeoisie by building a unified society in which every man has a place and a mission, but at the same time may rise to nobility provided on the strength of his virtue. Question 3. Who was the false innocence? Got it under control. No problem. Solid on this one. It's widespread historical information. Correct. There have been a number of counter or false innocences, some assumed to have innocentic qualities, some who just thought so themselves. Occasionally, they have the support of a faction inside the ecclesiastic organization, and accusations of foul play have arisen. The most famous and important of these was Ernest Pasternak. He was into torture, despotism, hymns, cannons, and world conquest, but got defeated and humiliated by Stepan the Despicable of Kedra. Final stretch. You've come so far and learned so much. This is the most important one. Question 4. Who was the greatest innocence? I've got it, honest. I don't even have to say it anymore. Correct. The Mesk might see Franco Negro as the father of nations, but as of this century, there's been a great shift in attitude. Dolores Day has become widely regarded as the greatest innocence, a most radical change to the whole fabric of the world. Everything from inter-isolary travel to the connected world to 3 consecutive scientific revolutions can be traced back to her. Every decade that passes, she seems less human somehow, and more beautiful. And more beautiful, and more beautiful. Congratulations on finishing the test. The results and your subsequent grade have been calculated. You get an A. All correct. Impressive. Oddly so. You really navigated some treacherous waters here. Well done.
Huh? Take what? Uh-huh.
You are really just talking to yourself. It is quite silly.
Man, something's weird about this book. You should do something fun instead. Rock out. Forget about it.
Browsing through the book again, you still have trouble understanding the torrent of information. It only seems to add to the confused jumble of facts inside your brain. You can do it. It'll be worth it. There's something here. Your educational survey is done. Did you catch any of that? No. Oh well, it's pop quiz time. Let's see what you've learned. Smarmy jerk. Bet you just got lucky that first time around anyway. Or you cheated off someone smarter. This bookstore is not strictly about crime, romance, and biographies of famous people. There's also a wide range of paranatural literature. Amidst the various books, you find one written by someone named Matthias W. Dundas. It's about wholeness, unity, balance. These 3 things are very important to the working class mind. The point of the book, and many others on this shelf, is to give people medicinal advice in situations where they don't have access to paid health services. Various paranatural books still litter the shelf.
Sir, please, no browsing in that shelf. That wisdom is not for free. I can't have you end up, like, opening a police store next door and stealing my customers. Oh no!
Amidst these three things are very important to the point of the book, and it serves platitudes, while also telling everyone that traditional medicine, the kind people don't have access to and which costs more than this book, is garbage and would only give you cancer anyway, without even curing your cold or anything. Wholeness, unity, balance, on the other hand, can basically take care of anything. Though it is important to note, when it's up to your mind to heal yourself, then it's because of your mind that you're ill in the first place. It's your own fault if you're ill. Got it? The book features chapters on topics such as how to find magnesium. It even lists plants you can harvest magnesium from. How to continue drinking if you're an alcoholic who has destroyed his liver. And there's even a chapter on the ancient Seraïs tradition of using duck gallbladder preservatives to treat and prevent sexually transmitted diseases. Pre and post factum apply. Nothing worth buying. This is just mundane garbage. What's even paranatural about this? The throbbing in your head increases with every passing moment you gaze at this shelf. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a small green book becomes apparent. The title of it reads, Medicinal Purposes of the Pearl. The book contains descriptions of various pseudoscientific therapies, alternative medicines, and folk remedies involving the pearl, also known as le territoire. For example, it recommends vigorously swatting one's naked body with a venik or hand broom, made from the leafy twigs of a young birch tree from the near pearl. Even better if you can find someone else, preferably a large man dressed in nothing but a towel, to thrash you while you're spread naked and helpless on a cool slab. It is, and good for the circulation too. It also recommends consuming distilled spirits like vodka or whiskey that have been aged in the pearl. Readers are instructed to cover these jars in a shallow hole just inside the pearl and leave them there for 30 to 60 days, depending on the potency desired. Among other benefits, it is alleged to restore a damaged liver to perfect health. That seems improbable. For general health and well-being, readers are encouraged to take regular strolls through the pearl, though a sidebar cautions readers to limit each stroll to less than an hour. These strolls promise to cleanse the mind of worries and the body of toxins, especially if the perambulator performs this ritual in the nude. Nudity figures prominently in a number of these prescriptions. This is exactly what you need. I don't know. I don't want to be the party pooper, but this pearl territory sounds sort of dangerous. Maybe you shouldn't walk in it naked. There's an entire section devoted to cures for men who are struggling to perform their marital obligations.
Excuse me, sir. I believe you've been perusing that particular volume long enough. If you'd like to continue reading, I must insist you buy it. Indeed, something about that book does seem to have spoken to you. Well, I hope it contains what you're looking for.
Medicinal Purposes of the Pearl. The cover of this heavy tome features a number of esoteric symbols. Flipping through the book, you find a number of sections on the general benefits of the pearl. A large pharmacopoeia makes up nearly half of the book. You come across the following explanation. While modern pharmacopoeia are continually updated by so-called experts based on the results of clinical trials, readers will find assembled here the timeless wisdom relied upon by generations of traditional Seolite medicine practitioners, Mesk mystics, and Ilmaran folk doctors. It's all quackery, in other words. Finally, something to calm the angry spirits that have been plaguing you. It seems to contain descriptions of the medicinal properties of various ingredients that may be gathered from the pale, as well as instructions for producing a variety of herbal remedies. There are a number of zeolite tonics that promise to improve your short-term memory, but nothing that speaks to your condition. There's nothing in here that speaks to hangovers directly. However, while browsing through the various descriptions, you become convinced that you could assemble something from the ingredients listed here. Want to give it a shot? First, you need to choose a base ingredient. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient with an appropriate vehicle. Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add? You've created a delicious tincture of whiskey and ginger. According to the pharmacopoeia, it should increase your energy and focus, though, in your experience, it's only done the opposite. If only you could find one of these right now and drink the shit out of it. The book said it's good for you, so it would be okay. Would you like to try again? Very well. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient. Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to add? You've created a delicious tincture of whiskey and ginger. According to the pharmacopoeia, it should increase your energy and focus, though, in your experience, it's only done the opposite. If only you could find one of these. Would you like to try again? Very well. Next, you'll need to combine the... Lastly, you've created a delicious tincture of whiskey and ginger. If only you could find... Would you like to try? Very well. Next, you'll need to combine the base ingredient with an appropriate... Lastly, is there anything else you'd like to... You've created a delicious tincture of whiskey and ginger. If only you could find... Would you like to try again? You close the book and find yourself staring at the familiar cover once more. Medicinal purposes of the... Very well. First, choose... Next, you'll need to combine the... Lastly, is there any... You've created a delicious tincture of whiskey. If only... Would you like to try again? You close the book. Shelves filled to the brim with...
Of course. Such violence and immorality. Enjoy.
In your hand, you hold Dick Mullen and the Mistaken Identity. The brittle paperback feels fragile to the touch. The cover features a pastiche of different scenes. In the foreground, a man in a dark overcoat clutches a pistol to his chest. Rising up behind him are two silhouettes wrapped in a passionate embrace. The tagline reads, Detective Dick Mullen must prove his innocence after an old friend is murdered by someone who looks just like Dick Mullen. That seems to sum up the premise nicely. Needless to say, it violates nearly every RCM regulation for a detective to investigate a murder in which he is a suspect.
Are you really reading that, detective? Good luck finding it. He's not much of a character, I think you'll find. Just a stand-in for the reader.
The point is for the reader to feel like they're solving the crime along with Dick Mullen. A crude narrative convention, but no less effective for it. The story opens with a knock at the door. Detective Dick Mullen is greeted by an old friend, Charlie Spillane, who's come to Mullen to ask a favor on this dark and cold night. Spillane needs Mullen to drive him in from Vespa to a small town along the Elysium coast. Despite his friend's apparent agitation, Mullen does as he's asked, then returns home where he passes out drunk, as he does most nights. An extremely unprofessional and hurtful stereotype that's offensive to all upstanding officers of the law, but also extremely accurate in your case. 2 days later, Mullen is arrested by the Vesper police and charged with the murder of Charlie Spillane. At his interrogation, Mullen learns that Charlie Spillane was shot in a bar in the very town Mullen dropped him off in by a man matching Mullen's description. Desperate to clear his name, Mullen manages to convince the Vesper police to release him for 3 days so that Mullen may solve his friend's murder and prove his innocence. Of course, Mullen didn't do it. That's the whole premise of the book. Anyway, Mullen returns to the seaside bar where Spillane was murdered and meets a beautiful, mysterious woman named Diana Deneuve. Deneuve reveals that she was Spillane's lover and that he was mixed up with a local amphetamine smuggling operation. As soon as Mullen begins pulling at strings, the whole conspiracy begins to unravel. Not only is the local police captain in on the amphetamine ring, so is the son of a powerful politician and a strung-out art collector named Torvald, each of whom has his own reasons for wanting Spillane dead. Outwardly, the old police captain is a real law and order crypto-fascist, a barrel-chested man who's beaten his share of suspects to pulp. But he's also dirty and increasingly paranoid that someone's going to expose his role in the drug ring. He would certainly have the motive and the means, but the captain walks with a noticeable limp from an old war injury. Is it possible that he was able to conceal it long enough to commit the murder? A typical privileged twat. In all likelihood, he's just in over his head. He does bear a personal grudge against Spillane, though, a former prosecutor who nearly brought down his father's administration. The kid doesn't exactly have Dick Mullen's manly build, but he is the correct height, and while interrogating him at his home, Mullen did notice a certain overcoat that looks suspiciously like his own. Torvald, the art collector, is a strung-out mess. Frankly, it's hard to imagine him holding a pistol steady enough to actually hit someone, let alone plug them 3 times in the chest the way Spillane got did. That said, Torvald and Spillane have a long history, and while interrogating him, Mullen discovers that Torvald was once involved with Diana Deneuve. Could it be that this is all over a sordid love triangle? One evening, Diana Deneuve comes to Mullen's hostel room in tears. The two of them drink half a bottle of vodka, and soon they're seeking comfort in each other's arms. Yes, comfort and pleasure. The warmth of another human's touch. The burning taste of liquor on her full, sweet lips. Well, that testimony won't be admissible any longer. As the two lovers share a post-coital cigarette, Diana Deneuve turns to Mullen and says, "By the way, Dick, there was something else I meant to tell you. I love you." The name of the true killer. Always aim for the center of mass. Whatever it is, Mullen never hears the words. A blow to the base of his skull knocks him out cold instantly. Who can you trust in this wicked, messed up world? The lieutenant gives you a quizzical expression in return. You go back to the story. When Mullen comes to, Deneuve is dead on the hostel bed next to him. To make matters worse, his clothes are covered with her blood. Mullen trashes his blood-stained clothes and flees the hostel, knowing it's only a matter of hours before the cops discover Deneuve's body, if they haven't been tipped off already. Fleeing a crime scene, destroying evidence. Even if Detective Mullen didn't commit the murder, he should be facing years behind bars. Dick Mullen won't be sent to the clink for the sake of some legal niceties. The heat is on. If Dick Mullen can't solve both murders before the cops catch up to him, he's going away for life. Can you solve the case before the cops close in? So, who did it, detective? Who killed Charlie Spillane and Diana Deneuve? Could be. Who knows? Only one way to find out. You begin furiously flipping through pages, Even as you know these books follow a series of well-worn tropes, you find yourself completely engrossed. You're turning pages so fast, you don't even notice the ancient spine coming unglued. You try to grab the pages as they come loose, but your fingers aren't quick enough. They're gone. Dozens of pages scatter across the floor. The last fifth or so of the book seems to have been lost. It's possible that you could gather and reassemble the pages, but it would take way too long.
Ah, yes. The problem with mass-market paperbacks. They are not made to last. Perhaps this is a sign that you should get back to solving your own murder, huh, detective?
Don't forget, it could have been the delirium tremens. In your hand, you hold 4/5 of Dick Mullen and the mistake. In your hand, you hold... Why? There's truly no point. If you insist. The story opens Spillane and extreme, but also extremely accurate, in your case. 2 days later, desperate to clear his name, Mullen manages to convince...
What's the matter, detective?
The lieutenant shrugs, resigned to the idea that his profession will rarely, if ever, be accurately represented in art and literature. They're not shitting you, detective. This is what the writers think passes for police procedure. Of course, Mullen didn't do it. That's the whole premise of the book. Anyway, and not just any dame. She's truly one in a million, a knockout whose mind is as dangerous as her curves. But she's got a secret. Secrets are the currency of human relations. Your secrets are unknown even unto you. Deneuve reveals that she was Spillane's lover. Not only is the local police captain in on the amphetamine one evening, yes, well, that testimony won't be admissible any longer. The man's a prosecutor's nightmare. Solving a murder counts for nothing if all the evidence gets thrown out in court over police misconduct. That's just Dick Mullen's modus operandi. He might bend the rules, but he closes cases like no one. As the two lovers share a post-coital cigarette, I love you. The name of the always aim, whatever it is, Mullen never hears the words. A blow to the base of his skull. When Mullen comes to, Mullen trashes fleeing a crime scene. Dick Mullen won't. The heat is on, and you'll never know what happens because the rest of the book is gone. What makes you think this isn't the final Dick Mullen case? How do you know this isn't the final case? This could go on forever. End it. In your hand, you hold 4/5 of Dick Mullen and the mistake. A small mountain of colourful board.
Wonderful choice, sir. A wholesome family game. If you say so, but you better stay away from those immoral occult rituals.
In your hands, you hold a brand new copy of the game, Suzerainty. It's snugly wrapped in a skin of plastic. The cover features a charming illustration depicting a mass of grinning labourers loading goods onto a ship, while a richly dressed administrator oversees their work. The exact location and time period are left deliberately vague, but it's clearly meant to represent the economic relationship between the Revacholian suzerainty and its many vassals. The box has a nice heft to it. You hear the rattle of individual wooden tokens and feel their weight shifting back and forth. What treasures wait in store for you? Even before you open it, you can tell that this will be a meaty game of grand strategy and complex player interactions. The plastic wrap rips off as easily as a bodice in a tawdry historical romance. There's a hiss as the lid slides off. Inside, you find a thick, full-color rulebook. and more than a dozen pouches of various wooden components. Savor that new board game smell. A mix of wood, paper, and ink, all wrapped in the sweet must of cardboard. Welcome to Suzerainty, a game of economic strategy for the whole family. The rulebook is sumptuously illustrated and thick as a Gradian novel. The instructions are opaque at first and introduce many concepts you're not familiar with. Fortunately, there are many diagrams and examples throughout. You soon figure out the basic conceit. Each player represents an administrator for the suzerain of Revachol. Your objective is to increase the suzerain's wealth and renown by accumulating victory points. That's where the suzerain's vassals come in. The game features 4 vassal nations, each one home to an economically important resource. Each turn, the player collects resources from vassals where they've placed workers. They may then rearrange their workers, fulfill contracts for coin and bonuses, or build structures back in Revachol. As you leaf through the pages, your eye catches on a sidebar labeled Advice for Beginners. Remember, there are many paths to victory in Suzerainty, but successful players will find one strategy and commit to it wholeheartedly. Boring, boring, boring. Tear up this rulebook and commit some old-school atrocities. The actual scoring system appears infinitely complex, with a series of tables and appendices required to compute each player's final victory point total. You skip that part for now. You open up a number of pouches containing wooden tokens. There are also several punch boards with other cardboard components that will need to be punched out before you can play. In addition to the worker and building tokens used by each player, there are also several piles of colorful resource tokens, each representing one of the game's 4 principal resources. From the Empire of Safre, orange apricot tokens. From Ilmarat, the ancestral name of Ilmara, grey marble block tokens. From the Seminine Islands, white sacks of sugar tokens. And from Supra Muindi and Sarah Maritza, magenta tokens for unprocessed cocaine leaves.
Oh, those are nice.
Each cardboard token makes a satisfying tsk as you pop it out. Soon, a neat pile of cardboard coins and counters has accumulated before you.
What? You're not going to offer to let me punch any of them out?
You hold the open game box before you. The lieutenant looks over the rulebook before he sees something that makes his eyes go wide.
Holy shit. The average playing time for this game is 1 to 6 hours. I'm not sure we can afford to set aside that kind of time for a game.
So he says, but his gaze lingers a moment longer on the rulebook than is strictly necessary. He could make time if he really wanted to. What is detective work if not an elaborate game? You need logical inference, attention to detail, the ability to analyze your opponent's motives.
I do feel like my thinking has become somewhat rigid. Maybe a little diversion to keep the mind limber is just what's in order.
See? He's doing the hard work himself. All he needed was a little nudge.
Alright, you've convinced me. How do we play?
You explain the basic setup procedures to the lieutenant, who seems to be a quick study. You each take your bag of tokens and counters and unfold the board between you. In the center is the crown of Revachol. Radiating outward are her colorful vessels, each one supplying some raw material desired by the suzerain. Apricots from Safre, archaeological treasures from Ilmarat, sugars from the Seminine Islands, and magenta cocaine from Supra Muindi and Sarah Maritza. There's also a neat little log to keep track of your progress in case you need to put the game away and return to it later. The lieutenant goes first. He draws a contract card and moves several of his workers to the Safre territory of the board, and the others to the Seminine Islands.
Alright, detective, your turn.
You have a few options available to you. Will you try to fulfill contracts right away or rearrange your workers to maximize production on future turns? Remember what the rulebook said. You'll want to choose a strategy early on and stay committed to it. You draw a contract card offering a number of coins in exchange for archaeological treasures. You place all your workers on the Ilmarat territory. On your next turn, you produce 6 units of archaeological treasure and fulfill the contract for a handful of coins.
Not bad, detective.
But not good enough, the lieutenant seems to be saying. As he completes his own contract card, the lieutenant is rewarded with 4 coins and a round wooden token that he places in the center of the board.
That's a market. It's worth 2 victory points. Don't worry, it was mostly just luck. You'll earn some points soon enough.
What is that patronizing tone? You're one of the suzerain's trusted administrators. You may need to put the lieutenant in his place. The lieutenant returns your baleful look with a satisfied grin. Come on, is that your game face? You're practically broadcasting your position to the lieutenant with that expression. Glancing over the board, you see several possible strategies. Pressing more workers into service would increase your economic output and help you to survive a possible conflict with the lieutenant. Or you could ignore your labor supply and focus on fulfilling contracts for points and resources. Those aren't your only options. You could also show your workers how much you appreciate them by investing some of that wealth in them. After all, they're the ones producing wealth for the suzerain. Well, sure, you can do that. It's just not a terribly effective strategy, but then it's up to you. To the lieutenant's puzzlement, you spend several turns building various improvements to your territorial infrastructure. Soon, your workers have access to clean water, paved roads, and basic hobbies. In return, they produce 1 extra resource per turn.
Too bad investing in your workers just isn't worth many points. Take a look at the scoring tables in the back. You see in Table 8C that investing in territorial infrastructure multiplies your final victory point total by 1, which is to say not at all. Whereas erecting monuments in Revachol gives you a multiplier of 5. Yes, precisely.
Now it's the lieutenant's turn to respond. He moves aggressively onto the Safre territory. Soon, his workers are producing a steady supply of extremely valuable apricots. How can you let the lieutenant dominate you like that? You need to hit back, and hard. For several turns, you struggle to respond to the lieutenant's burgeoning apricot empire. Eventually, you relocate the majority of your workers to Supremawindi and Saramaritsa, where they begin producing a bumper crop of cocaine tokens. You draw a new contract card. According to the text, there's an aristocrat willing to trade a large supply of cocaine for a number of coins and access to a rare bonus. Amplified music worth 7 victory points. Oh yeah, baby. Cocaine and rock music go together like cocaine and rock music. You know, this isn't unlike the situation the historical Revacholian suzerainty faced in Safre in the middle of the last century. Well, the suzerain was looking for new markets for all the cocaine it was producing, and it settled on Safre. By introducing cocaine into Safre under exclusive contract, the suzerain created an extremely valuable captive market for an extremely addictive product. If you could somehow get the lieutenant's workers addicted to your cocaine, you could not only make them less productive, you would also force the lieutenant to pay you for your cocaine tokens each turn. Yes, you can. It's right there in the rules. Now's your chance. Show the lieutenant what happens when he patronizes you. You've reached a critical strategic juncture. How do you respond to the lieutenant's aggression? With each passing turn, you slowly bleed the lieutenant of coins as his own workers become less productive and more dependent on your magenta cocaine tokens. As a matter of historical fact, this is almost exactly what happened in Safre. To this day, fully half of the former Safre Empire remains dependent on international aid in exchange for a steady supply of cheap produce.
More or less.
Realizing victory is slipping away, the lieutenant launches a desperate gambit: protectionism. By erecting tariffs on your cocaine, he hopes to starve you out of the market at the risk of incurring the suzerain's disfavor. The end game is upon you. Do you escalate the trade war with the lieutenant in hopes of crushing him with your economic might? Or do you ignore his aggression and focus on building the mighty victory column structure in Revachol herself? Alternatively, you could throw the whole game away by trying to build a public education system for the children of your workers. The choice is yours. Building the ultimate structure requires diligent economic planning, which you completely fail to do. Rather than build a glorious monument to Revachol's economic superiority, you have to settle for a handful of post offices and school for the blind.
A risky gambit, detective. Sorry it didn't pay off. That might have helped, yes. Now, let's tally up the scores, shall we?
Computing the final scores is almost a game unto itself. You each spend an inordinate amount of time making stacks of coins, consulting tables, and struggling with basic addition and multiplication. After double, then triple checking your maths, you have your final score: 15 victory points. The suzerain will not be impressed.
I've got 26 points. Don't be glum, detective. There's always next time. Figuratively, I mean. There's no way we have time to play this game again. Now, let's clean up and get back to work.
You hold the open game box before you. Large letters on the front form a title: Wirral. The colorful box is illustrated with bucolic vistas. The cover art also features odd-looking humanoids, some short, some taller, some with pointy ears, others with ephemeral wings. Text underneath the title in smaller typeface reads, 3rd edition, Mega Setting Supplements Module. The side panel adds, a sword and sorcery adventure board game with new maps and miniatures. Mysterious things rattle inside. What could they be? Dice? Plastic miniatures? A fantastical alternate world full of magic and wonder? None of that witless man from Heimdall fascist dross, hidden behind faux realistic allegory. Wirral is no cliché-ridden apologia for colonial violence. Wirral is pure imagination. Yes, the Wirral setting is known for its complicated system of political alignments. But if you're not into that, you can just hack your way through dungeons in search of loot. That's what most people do. A blurb on the back reads, tired of the tedium and toil of modern life? Escape to Wirral. Leave behind e-solas and nations with their petty squabbles. Discard electricity, magnets, and boring technological widgets. Succumb to a world of high pasternal fantastique. Unleash your imagination and create an adventure of endless possibilities. Discover the terrible secret threatening Wirral. Can your band of adventurers save the world? Exactly. That's the spirit. All you have to do is read an intricate rulebook, study an assortment of maps, unfold the illustrated game board, and start rolling dice. In no time, you could be romping through grasslands with low-level characters, hunted by Iskala riders, or battling unspeakable monsters in endless dungeons fraught with danger and despair, conjuring up forceful magics to aid your quest. Don't forget heated arguments escalating to physical confrontation with your friends. And beer. Lots of beer. And most importantly, never forget to rage quit if the dice don't go your way.